本期节目由 Gintell 赞助播出，养生健康按摩就找 Gintell。赛沙迪是个曾经的变坛小鲜肉，在经历了喜来登政变以后，丢失了部长职位，甚至后来还官司缠身。现在他决定自己出来开创一个政党，打着开明多元的旗号来上阵。那MUDA到底是真的开明，还是只是抢票作秀而已呢？今天我们就请到了当事人赛沙迪来跟他一探究竟。
Our guest, Syed, the president of MUDA. Yeah.
Thank you.
But today we gotta be serious.
Can.
Because you
are going to contest for real, right?
Yeah.
You are leading the party already.
Yeah,
correct.
And on your own, you are not together with PH anymore.
Well, you see, on my own is like single forever, you know. Aiyo.
So our first question is, as a voter, why we should vote for MUDA instead of PH then?
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Allow me to just give two reasons.
Yes.
Alright.
Wow.
Number one, I believe that in a democracy, it's always good to have choices. In the places where MUDA are contesting in, federal government is PHBN. State government is PHBN. The Ahli Majlis is PHBN. The Ketua Kampung there is PHBN. I think giving MUDA and PSM a chance to serve allows us to be the voice of conscience for the people, the alternative.
All right.
To act as a check and balance, especially when top to bottom, it's by the same party and coalition. What more if Barisan Nasional on board? I think that's one. The second point behind it, I think we need to ask ourselves honestly, with BN and PH together, what are the changes which have truly taken place? Issues on corruption. You see the statement in which there is a potentiality or possibility that the Deputy Prime Minister's cases will be dropped. There's also cases where LCS, 11.2 billion ringgit expenditure on defense equipment, right, which was the hot topic issue before election and now silenced. Issues of education, where a 19-year-old smart, talented lady was rejected by our pre-university but could get into Harvard University, and yet the answer is, we will maintain status quo, nothing will change. What has happened to the dream to build a truly multiracial, diverse Malaysia? What has happened to the dream in which we want to reform institutions? I think those parts have been taken too lightly. So the reason why MUDA enters, we know that we cannot take down any federal or state government, being very realistic. But a vote for MUDA and PSM will be a wake-up call to the federal government after elections. That if you give us a chance, after elections, the government will no longer take multiracial, moderate Malaysia lightly, because today they see it as a safe vote bank. Oh, do not contest it. This is my place. It is okay. No matter what happens, they will still vote for me. So they're taking the votes of people very lightly. I think this is an important wake-up call.
Sure. When you say education, does it mean better policy, or you want to challenge the status quo?
Well, I definitely want to challenge the status quo. Which is moving from a purely quota-based system to one which is needs-based. Why I can say that? Because a needs-based system actually will also protect the underprivileged Malays who come from poor families. But let's not forget, in my kawasan, in Muar, you go to Parit Jawa, you will also see underprivileged Chinese who are born into really abject poverty, but they don't get the sufficient support. So the case I'm trying to make is, for the past 20 years, then the opposition have said we want to change that system, but today saying we will keep the exact same. I'm not asking them to open it up all in one day, but at least show that there is a transition, that there is an improvement in policy. That's what people want to hear.
If you really way liberal than PH, wouldn't be very hard to get the conservatives votes from the PN side. And that's why I think you say you want to check and balance the PH state government. But how about the PN state government? If you really cannot get the conservative Malay youth votes,
that's a fair point.
I mean, like, you are only harvesting the votes from PH.
I always believe in taking the center, not going extreme left or extreme right. That's why I still believe
going to the extreme left.
Correct. That's why I still believe in protecting our constitution and Rukun Negara, which also states that the protection of all races and religions would be given the ultimate priority. What I'm advocating for is improvement in policies. After decades of collecting data, knowing that some policies do not work, you don't keep status quo, you change it. But to answer your question about What about PN?
Are you only harvesting the PH votes?
Which is a very good point.
Yeah.
A few things to point out here. Number one, I just want to say that PN is in direct opposition to a truly multiracial and diverse Malaysia. And we've been very consistent speaking up against that, so much so that I was expelled from my ex-party, removed from my ministerial position, dragged in court for fighting that very system. However, how do you change hearts and minds of the Malay Muslim community? Do you merely pander, or do you actually convince them? MUDA is here to invest for the next 20 years. We are saying things which are very tough to digest and to be accepted now. But if you play the safe route, oh, never mind, now we are in power, we just keep status quo and we expect them to change. No, they won't. In reality, it'll get worse. But when you're in power, you should actually use your power to change hearts and minds, and that's what MUDA wants to do. But we agree will not be tough. We are very small. Out of 240 seats which are being contested, we're only contesting about 15 or below 10%, very small amount. But we see this as an investment for the next 10 to 20 years.
I mean, these are the script that we heard from PH 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Can you tell us like how you guys are going to implement that if you guys in power? Like what kind of policies or
I think when a party become bigger, they will become more central.
Because they need to take care of a whole right.
So I think number one, we need to start by acknowledging that the system is broken. I show a very simple example, right? Despite decades of economic assistance, still a quarter of Bumiputra Sabahans are still living below poverty line, not even middle class, poverty line, which shows that there's a systemic failure in policies. This is not a race and religious issue, it is a policy issue. For example, when it comes to education, PISA ranking shows that Malaysian students are 3 years behind Singaporean students. And not just that, half of Malaysian students post-SPM don't want to further their studies because incomes are very low, university courses takes a very long time. So all of this is there. If you go smaller on a national school system today, middle-class Malay parents are choosing to spend a quarter of their income per month to send their children to either private or international schools. Why is that? Right? So all of that shows a very weakened, broken system. We know we can't open up the system in one day, but the least you can do is to give a guarantee. Two, when we look at education today, we need to have the moral courage to revamp our education system. I mean, to me, there's a big hypocrisy that the same people who say, no, we cannot change, it's very controversial. These are hypocrites who are in positions of power. Oh, let's keep syllabus all the same, cannot change, but they send their children, grandchildren to private and international schools which cost hundreds of thousands, if not send them abroad. But in Malaysia, no, national school, keep the same way. I mean, we must aspire to build a national education system in which even politicians and the richest elites will choose to send their children to national schools. After SPM, you have so many paths. You have STPM, Matrikulasi, Asasi, A-levels, O-levels, name it, so many. The ones which people always want to enter would be Matrikulasi or Asasi. Asasi foundation is almost 100% reserved for Bumis.
Yes.
Matrikulasi is 90-10.
Yep.
Okay. Why do I say this is a matter of policy and it's not about the constitution? Because previously they had 60-40. And then they moved to 90-10. Point is that it is a matter of policy from time to time where you realize that policies can be made better, that there are underprivileged communities which are left out. So you improve it. The case I'm trying to make here is that there must be a gradual move from that system to one which is needs-based, which is colourblind, while at the same time ensuring that even poor Malays are not left behind. I mean, to be honest, you ask any, whether a rich Chinese businessman or a poor Chinese, should we help poor Malays? They'll say, yes. Why do they get angry? They get angry when they see sons and daughters of rich Malay elites also get scholarships.
The reality is you try to voice out this policy,
I don't think you can
win Kelantan and Kelantan.
没错 ，Gintell S6 Plus 八手养生椅是全马第一个拥有最新 AI 智能科技的按摩椅，拥有8D 双机芯按摩功能，让你感觉有8只手同时在按摩，
配合230度泰式伸展功能，让你的手、肩、背和臀部全身都彻底的放松。它还有独家 AI 生物疲劳扫描技术，可以测量心率、血氧和疲劳指数，并定制适合的按摩程序。
你也可以通过 Gintell Super App OS 应用程序，轻松控制按摩椅。
原价29,988，现在只需要14,988令吉。
还送你 SmarTrek Pro FT480 跑步机、
G-turbox Plus 筋膜枪
和 G-skill Plus 体重秤，这么划算，还等什么？赶快点击链接来了解详情吧。
If you try to voice out this policy,
You
I
are
don't think you can
definitely-
win Kelantan and Kedah.
Some of the people, they will understand the stance of PH because they know this
So
compromisation.
they will take this as the transitional period instead
Yes.
of they take it as what you say that they refuse to change. Or
I think that they've taken multiracial moderate Malaysia lightly because
Alright.
they see those who are truly multiracial moderate as their safe deposit, as a safe vote bank. They will not move anywhere. As a consequence, why do I need to change policies?
All right.
I'm convinced that the majority of Malaysians are indeed moderate. That the last electoral results was a rejection of corruption. UMNO collapsed, not PH. UMNO collapsed and they moved to PN. Look at Indonesia. You know, Jokowi came in being a reformer. And he made tough decisions, unpopular decisions at the beginning. But in time, people accepted and he was re-elected with a decent majority the second round. The point is you need to lead by changing hearts and minds instead of pandering. Once you try to pander too much, we went through that problem in 2018. You lose multiracial Malaysia and you lose the hardliners because you're trying to appease everyone. You need to lead, and you lead with policies. What I'm talking about, to be honest, it's not controversial. I'm not saying dismantle Article 153, 160, the Constitution, remove no monarchy. No, I'm talking about policy improvements driven by data after decades of implementation which have failed clearly and where we should improve.
Would the Malay youth really will accept this kind of?
I think Malay youth, like many other youths,
Yep.
want good quality jobs, good paying jobs, good public transportation, good quality education. These are all things where we are in line. That's why you need to see it as a package.
All right.
Because when a package, it means improving the state of our public education system, ensuring that the syllabus is relevant and market ready, ensuring that after that, even employers will want to hire them because now they can be trilingual, right? Not just monolingual. I think that's how you make them better. At the beginning, it may be controversial, but I think in time, when there's a clear direction forward, they will be convinced.
if I'm a Malay, I would be thinking you can do all the improvement of the quality of teaching without removing the quota system. Like, how is
Like
it-
transportation,
how is it contra-
I have
You can just
job,
advancing the syllabus, like more language classes, like more skill-based classes. Like, why do you need to take away the quota
very-
system? That one is, if I was Malay, I feel like, you just do it for non-Muslim.
I do not believe that being a Malay makes me weak and incompetent. I do not believe that I will need crutches for the rest of my life, nor will my future generations need crutches for the rest of their lives. I come from a lower middle income family. My mom is a teacher. My father is a blue-collar worker who commutes from Johor to Singapore every day. I mean, I went to national school. I graduated from public university, only then studying abroad. And when I was in debating, public speaking, representing Malaysia and breaking records in Asia and the world, there's no quota system. Heck, there was no quota system when we beat Oxford, Cambridge and Harvard. But the perception, which continues to say that the only reason why we succeed is because of the quota system, is because we cannot compete, that we are incapable. And that narrative, I think, hurts my community a lot.
Right.
In reality, there are a lot who are really competent and capable, who can do it. So I believe systems which create equal opportunities. I'm not talking about equal outcomes, equal opportunities. Where you start at a level playing field, puts us through a competitive course in which we are put through pressure cooker, makes us better leaders, better people to serve Malaysia, than one in which labels us as those who are incapable.
You are quite confident about this. You can persuade the Malay vote to bet.
Did you contest in the Kedah
contest in the
and Kelantan
Kedah.
state?
Now to look at state elections. You
Alright,
rightfully
sure.
asked the question.
Yeah.
But why only focus on specific states? I mean, yesterday we announced that we're also contesting in a past stronghold, and we're sending our general in Terengganu, Lokman Long. He's one of our co-founders. He's our Ketua Penerangan Biro Politik. In a way, in this whole election, he is the most senior leader.
Alright.
And yet we're fielding him in one of the toughest seats in Terengganu. But you may also ask, then why not field a lot in Kedah, Kelantan, Terengganu? To be very honest, if I had the money, the resources, I would. But MUDA must be realistic.
Alright.
Right? We are very limited in resources. We don't have all these billionaires giving us millions. We're not in government. We have no control over state machinery. So of the 240 seats, we can only afford to contest about 15, maximum 20 seats. So we have to strategize, start somewhere to build that message. For you to build that message, I mean, you don't start building. I mean, can ask the same question. Will you ask Datuk Sri Anwar or maybe Lim Guan Eng to contest in Kelantan, Terengganu? Ask YB Rafizi, who's from Terengganu, to contest in Terengganu. He didn't, right?
Because they admit they can't do that, man. So they compromise, man. But you say you can do it, man.
So
we ask you,
and yet, we start somewhere.
All right.
Right? You must start by building it there.
That's what he called investing. I think there's one more question as a DS supporter will ask. Because you know the biggest threat to the liberal society, to the multiracial society is actually the growing of conservatism. But right now, if we are still disperse our votes, we are not consolidating our votes together, would it leading to a victory of conservatism?
So again, I quote example of President Jokowi. After his first term, he was labelled as a liberal reformist. And his opposition was led by Prabowo and a huge Islamic movement which mobilized millions to protest on the streets. And it happened in the state of Jakarta, the beating engine. Instead of backing down or pandering, he took the bulls by the horn and consistently led by those ideals. And he won with a bigger majority. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because I think today, pandering and forgetting ideals for strategic reasons lead to more harm than good. You cannot go too much to the right, but above and beyond that, you also forget the ideals which got you into politics. So the notion I'm trying to make here is, it is better to engage in the politics of changing hearts and minds than the politics of pandering.
In Indonesia, Jokowi also compromised a lot. Like last time the Mayor Chong was in jail, it's split with the Mayor Chong.
Correct.
Yeah. So like because the Mayor Chong is actually attacked by the conservative of Islam.
That's the one in Jakarta, right?
Yeah.
So if you notice after, so
he compromised a lot, and that makes him stable until now. And the
stable politics only
so who is the Jokowi? Is Anwar or Syed?
Saddiq?
Yeah, so that's one of my questions.
I want you to be very frank and honest. Do you think that there is a lot of progress happening now? In Indonesia, you can effectively say, prior to Jokowi, don't you, there was huge progress?
Yes.
Okay, ask yourself the honest question. That's why I'm not asking for the world. I'm not asking for all the reforms to take place now. But I'm asking for basic things. Not even basic things. Back then, things which were clear red lines. I mean, tell me now with a straight face. If you can say that everyone in your cabinet is clean, indicating that there's potentiality that criminal cases will be dropped, cases in court being postponed indefinitely, if that were to take place 1 year ago, don't you think there will be riots and protests on the streets done by the very same people who are in power today? I mean, there are a lot of red lines, one by one and the other one. So that's why I'm here, not saying that we should take down the federal government. This is a state election. And MUDA is not even contesting in half the seats or in any capable way which could take down any state government.
So it sounds like the breakup of MUDA and Harapan is because you guys disagree with their current doings?
I wouldn't say fully break up. So, I mean, for there to be a breakup, we have to be accepted first. I think it's public knowledge that we tried to join 3 times. And what was committed before elections, after elections became something else. But that's political strategy. And I respect whoever wants to do this kind of political strategy. It's normal. However, I think in the end, if I can create a situation in which there is decent support to indicate that you cannot take multiracial moderate Malaysia lightly, that you cannot just abandon the reform agenda, you cannot abandon or treat multiracial Malaysia as your safe deposit always. Oh, this is mine and no one else can disturb, and now I'll think of pandering to others. If you can create that circumstance, post-state elections, I think that's where negotiations on policy reforms will be better.
If we compare with why MUDA instead of PN,
even easier.
What is your...
Even easier. Allow me to say, allow me to share this.
Is it even
one is, one, to put it very clearly,
okay,
it's a celebration of diversity against one in which sees diverse Malaysia potentially as a problem. And it's not just about our ways of living. But above and beyond that, I think the debate is so much about race and religion that you forget about actual policy decisions. Right? I think the focus should be about policy improvements. And I think that's my take. However, I really wish that in the next 5 to 10 years, MUDA will grow even more. And that's where, with better resources, by then our leaders would be older.
Right.
I would be slightly more matured, hopefully, to know the selok-belok politics even better. By then, we can go national in every single seat and bring that Malaysian dream to a national stage.
True.
Yeah.
Just now you say you want to do the actual policy.
Yeah.
What kind of actual policy you want?
Oh,
Part of the education.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or quota system.
Sure. I'll go to institutions and then I go to education.
All right.
Institutions first. First, I want to build a Malaysia in which no matter who becomes government, who is the prime minister, which party governs, Malaysia will be on the right footing. Therefore, we'll always move forward. I give an example, right? In US, they had Donald Trump, who tried to dismantle democracy and their important institutions. He failed. In the end, the institutions were strong enough. In the UK, they've had like 4 to 5 prime ministers, almost like they are trying to compete with us, you know. But yet, their system is strong enough, supersede political personality. But how do you build a strong, resilient, institutional framework of governance in Malaysia? So that even if one way down the road, Mahathir Awang becomes prime minister, Malaysia is still a developed country. You decentralize power.
All right.
Because the problem is when you are powerful, you never want to let go. For example, we don't even have our Political Funding Act. Today, if there's a tycoon who wants to buy over all parties, even if that tycoon is someone from abroad, it's legal. Right? And then that's why before elections, you say something. After elections, you say something completely different. Because the system is like that too. When it comes to education, I believe in data-driven decision-making process. I really shared about the need to transition from a purely quota-based system to one which is needs-based. But above and beyond that, as I shared, in our public education curriculum, I think there must be a review, but that review must be done via a bipartisan select committee. Why do I say that? It's useless if I'm able to change that and then 5 or 10 years down the road, another government comes in, change it. And then change many times, everyone suffers. But I think if it's a bipartisan system, as I shared, ask yourself, why are even the so-called proud Malay Muslim leaders who say, we need to keep the same system, why do they send their children abroad? They know that there's a problem with the system, but maybe it's hard to say in public. A select committee, which is bipartisan in nature, can do that. It takes away the need to be populist to do those tough changes. There's a big outflow from public schools was when we keep on changing. Back then in Bahasa, and then in English, and then in Bahasa, and then a hybrid system. And then in the end, the focus on the curriculum changes as well from 20 years ago. And people lose faith. In the end, now it's no longer just about Chinese and Indians living. It's also about Malays living. So you have to have the courage to reform that process. When you enter into universities, I've shared this before. One is, I think there's so much emphasis on universities that we forget TVET, Technical Vocational Education. And again, Parliament, you hear, Saddiq just throw money, build more TVET. In Parliament, I want to bring a TVET college in my place. You know now we have 600 TVET colleges across Malaysia. A lot of them are dilapidated, about to close down. Out of the 600 in KBS then, 50% intake only. You know it's free. It's free. Fully subsidized. You get allowance every month. But yet the intake is so low. Why? Because it's so long and lengthy. People want to enter TVET hands-on. Hands-on work, they want to be quick. Why wait until after university? Form 3, Form 4, Form 5, you can specialize in TVET already. After that, you finish. Let's say you take SPM, you get SPM certificate. No, you get a diploma. And then after you exit TVET college, you only need to specialize. Don't need to go to 2 or 3 years for diploma. No. If you want to be a professional photographer, wildlife photographer, you specialize then 6 months, 8 months. Short course, micro credential after. Not doing it for 3 years. I mean, if not, why would people take TVET? They'll go to university. You know, in other countries, they would have had 2 or 3 years additional working experience because they graduate earlier. In Malaysia, it takes so long. So many unnecessary subjects. You take it in pre-U, in university you have to take it again. Nothing to do with your skill set. I'm saying make it optional. If you want to take it. No one will stop you. I'm even saying the state can subsidize you to take those subjects. No problem. But don't force everyone. Not everyone have the same interest. Some want to graduate early because they come from poor families and they need a quick job. If not, they have to drop out. Some want to get internship opportunities. Some want to pursue their passion in arts. Malaysians who are adults are smart enough to make that choice. My goal, I really want to create a system in which our education system is world-class. Our education system is good, in which even the richest elites in Malaysia will have faith in our public education system. Not a world in which, as time passes by, you create a class disparity which is much worse. One which is for the poor and one which is for the rich. Even when it comes to something as basic as education, because that is scary.
So how can you increase the salary of you?
It sounds like it's all about education. Like if the economy is
Correct.
not up, then the salary wouldn't go out as well.
I have a few propositions. I'll start with the three main priority. Number one, I've already shared just now about an
Education.
overhaul of education system.
Yeah.
Why? You cannot allow them to graduate late and then in the end they have a huge education debt.
Yep.
And their salary is still very low because not enough work experience, while their peers who graduate from NTU, NUS, IIT Bombay have 2 or 3 years additional work experience than you while you're about the same age. So that's one, and obviously it links to TVET as well. Okay. Second way in which I like to propose is to have a wage transparency laws. What is wage transparency? See, in other developed countries, if you are an employer, you are mandated to mengiklankan or to promote what is your salary range which you want to propose to this new employee. For an example, if I own a small SME, I have 10 vacancies. This is the amount from let's say from $2,000 to $3,000. It's compulsory. So let's say, for an example, if I am a future employee, there are 100 companies who want to hire fresh employees. Now I know exactly each and every single company how much you're offering, what are the details, and then I can make a choice which one is better. In Malaysia, it's the opposite. We have no wage transparency laws. What happens is, it will be employees who will kill one another to compete with a lower salary scale so that I can get that job. Second part, very quickly, there's something we can learn from the Singaporean model.
Right.
You know Singapore doesn't have a minimum wage.
Oh, is it?
Okay, I'm not saying that in Malaysia I want to advocate for no minimum wage, but I'm talking about hybrid. Minimum wage is for those who like absolute bottom, right? But what about those who are TVET graduates or university graduates who are engineers and architects? You know, more than 50% of engineers and architects today are paid below 2,000 ringgit.
Oh, yo.
After 6 years of studying in university with a 50,000 ringgit debt at their back, they only get paid 2,000. You know, if you are an SPM leaver, you work in Uniqlo, you get 2,003. I mean, then we ask, why don't people want to go to universities now? That's the answer, okay?
All right.
What's the other thing? The other thing, I think YB Rafizi has spoken about it, a progressive wage model, but it's not just a progressive wage model which forces an increase every year. It localizes of what Singapore does. It's called wage benchmarking. So it doesn't just look, for an example, a general, or if you are an engineer, you should get paid 2,500. No. An engineer in KL maybe is 3,000, 3,500. What about an engineer in Muar? What about an engineer in Jerai?
All right.
So it looks at the cost of living in the area, the specific skill sets needed in the area, the number of employers and companies which exist in the area, and at the same time, how much is needed for each and every single underemployed youth. Underemployed means I have a degree, let's say in architecture, but I'm working as a Grab driver. And that's the majority of young Malaysians today, which is very worrying. It's not about unemployment, it's about underemployment.
Who are doing the benchmarking? The government, is it?
Correct. So it's a body in which government is merely a mediator. Government doesn't dictate. You'll have workers' union. I'm in Malaysia, I always advocate for more workers' unions. There's workers' unions on board. Employers, reps also on board. Labor unions and many others. For example, even in the father of capitalism in the US, for every $1 earned by a company, about 45 cents go to the employee. But the employee also brings a lot of productivity. So that's where you look at productivity and profit.
Yes.
In Malaysia, we are one of the lowest. It's about 23 to 24 cents. Even Singapore is higher. What does this mean? It means there is a wage problem, right? And that's where underemployment is a major issue. As I shared, now there's about 1.5 million young Malaysians with a degree or master's but not practicing it at all and being in a low skilled workforce with low wages. Imagine you are an architect or an engineer, you work for Grab, but then there's no progress, there's no career progression after. So to me, that's the biggest problem in Malaysia. And to resolve that, you need good policies. You cannot just blame employers or blame employees. It's often a center path, because in the end there is that win-win solution, which is true policy making.
It's really persuasive, but I would like to ask, did you talk about it in Malay station?
Oh yes.
This is what our audience always demand.
I've spoken about it everywhere. In Parliament, I have, dalam bernama, berita harian, utusan, and I will continue to speak the same language. I will not change. You see me spoke about this before elections, after elections. I was personally hoping that this would be done now, but I mean, I can't speak on behalf of
course,
in
of course.
Putrajaya. But will I change my tune? No.
All right.
I will continue to speak about it. Whether I win or lose, it is okay. I mean, just to share one thing. When MUDA decided to enter the state election, said, Habela, hilang deposit. You will be the biggest contributor to SPR because your deposit will go to them. You know, I don't know why people are so scared of losing.
All right.
I mean,
Because money, what?
No. One thing, when you join politics, you know it requires a lot more sacrifice, right? I mean, if it's only about being in power, I would have picked the easy path to stay my old party Bersatu, be a minister, and have a chill life instead of picking the remarkably tough path for the past 3 years of not just rejecting offers but receiving so much threats. But it is about sacrifice, right? So if I lose, it's okay. I will be more fearful if I lose my principles and lose my ideals. That means I've died internally. That I'll be even more afraid. Losing deposit, losing seats, you have 10 years to go, 20 years to go. I mean, I can name you so many politicians, including Lim Kit Siang. How many times did he lose? He lost so many times. Did he give up? No. It's okay. The point is, you lose to the people, you are still consistent.
Right.
In time, people may accept. If they don't, it's okay. I mean, that comes with the risk comes with the job. MUDA is not about Syed Saddiq. There are so many other talented young candidates who were never given a chance to contest. I think it's better to give them a chance. So that's why I say MUDA entering this state election is truly an investment for Malaysians, investment in ourselves. We get to become better. We learn from the pressure cooker. But we're hoping that we're given a chance, because we will not be able to form federal state government. Parliament to federal to state are all controlled by one coalition.
A lot of voters are actually concerned about your court case.
Oh, that's a fair point. No, firstly, it's not controversial. As a public figure, I have a duty to answer that. So when I continuously speak up about corruption, especially what has happened today, right?
They will say, what about you yourself?
Correct. So then those who say, how can you criticize the Deputy Prime Minister or the choice of the Prime Minister, and then the indefinite postponement of the case, or news of the case being dropped? You are going through it as well. Allow me to show a clear distinction. I've never once even attempted to postpone my case. If anything, my case started in August. Now it's just waiting for decision. I've never postponed it. If anything, it's been expedited. It's one of the fastest high-profile case ever. Some started 3-4 years ago, not even close to finish.
All right.
I'm already done. It's been done since April. 2, when you know you do no wrong, do not be afraid. I mean, my case involves internal party funds, which 0 went to me. It's just withdrawal didn't go into party procedures, which I've defended myself in court, and I'm not afraid to face the music. If I was afraid, I would have just made a backdoor deal, accept that ministerial position before, if not a chairman of a GLC. This was in 2020. I mean,
We didn't know.
2020 then, my party.
Okay.
And then live a comfortable life. I'm more worried when there are those who use the levers of power to get themselves out, those who say something else before elections and change their tune, or those who kowtow to threats and are willing to abandon their principles. See, if I only think, oh my god, what's going to happen this state election? Oh yo, I think I will not be here. I'll be panicking, pengsan already. Right? Oh my god, obviously state election will be very tough. But move your vision 20 years ahead. So it's not just about the state elections. When you think 20 years ahead, you want to start building alliances with those with shared values, right? Who will defend diversity, multiracialism, and more open Malaysia.
So last one, do you have any add-on to our audience?
Yeah.
Add on. Assalamualaikum, Tachahau, Yiptayarking Vanakkam. My name is Syed Saddiq, President of MUDA. I'd like to appeal to your kind hearts to give MUDA a chance. We admit that we are young, we may lack experience, but what we lack in experience, we make up with ideals, ideas and solutions in really wanting to make Malaysia a developed country, where we celebrate diversity, talk about good policy making, and making Malaysia the engine of growth in Southeast Asia. These state elections will not change the federal government, because the fact of the matter is, the place where MUDA will be contesting, the federal government is still the same coalition, state government is still the same coalition, even the member of parliament is from the same coalition. Even to Ketua Kampung and Ahli Majlis, it is the same. Give MUDA a chance to be that voice of conscience, to be that alternative, to act as your voice, to check and balance the government of the day. This is an investment for the next 20 years. We are not contesting in the 240 seats out of 240. We're only contesting 15 to 20. But we know what we start small will roll into bigger ideals and changes in Malaysia for the next 20 years. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Good to be back.
Yeah, remember to press your like button and share this out. All right, thank you so much.